Waco, Arizona, about an hour south of Nancy's home in Tucson. I was on the air when deputies and FBI agents stopped a driver and searched his home. Police say he had no connection to the case and released him. But the man says he wants the sheriff to come out and apologize so that he can clear his name. His attorney, Jesse Showalter, joins me now. Jesse, the Pima County Sheriff says that your client was questioned, was released, but they're still processing evidence. What evidence are they processing?
Well, the only thing that we're aware that the sheriff's office took was his cell phone. We have requested that that cell phone be returned. We anticipate that it will be soon. Obviously, Carlos has no connection whatsoever to this Nancy Guthrie business.
What led up to him being detained in the first place? Any idea?
Well, that's what we're trying to understand. There was a search warrant that was issued. It was signed by a judge in Pima County, and it permitted the search to occur. It permitted the search of his residence, his vehicle, and his person, the taking of DNA, and the taking of his phone. But when we requested the affidavit that the investigators had to provide to the judge in order to obtain the search warrant, and that affidavit is under seal. So it's very hard for us to figure out what, it's obvious to us that he's innocent, that he had nothing to do with this, and that either, there may be false statements in this declaration, there may be mistakes, there may be some kind of confusion, but that's what we're trying to figure out.
I mean, he says that since his arrest, people have been following him, taking pictures of him at times. How is he doing with all this?
This has been overwhelming for his family. This has been just terrifying and heartrending, and they're in this position where they've been taken from anonymity and thrown into this, and they don't want to come out and be seen on camera because it's only going to make it worse. And so it's not just Carlos, it's his in-laws, it's his wife, it's his children. They're living in terror. They have cars driving by their house. They're being pointed at if they go out in public and go to the store, and they're having difficulty maintaining employment as a result of this.
The sheriff says the department does not identify people who were detained and released without charges, but he's not apologizing for arresting your client either. Is that enough? Should the sheriff apologize?
The sheriff should apologize. I think it's really obvious. Carlos is an American citizen. They placed a cloud of suspicion over him. They identified him as a quote unquote person of interest, which is tantamount to calling him a suspect. Then they released him and didn't clear the cloud that they created. So we don't think that simply saying, oh, let's all move on is sufficient. What we've seen again and again in high-profile cases where police are having difficulty and pressure to solve them, things like the Amerithrax investigation after 9/11, the Atlanta Olympics bombing, they end up pointing the finger at people, and it can take years for them to clear their names, and they live with a cloud over them. And ultimately, we know that the sheriff's office is going to have to make this right and fess up that they made a mistake.
Does it impact your argument at all for those who would argue, well, it wasn't the sheriff's office who named him, but an interview that was given by his own mother-in-law? Does that impact it at all?
No, that community in southern Arizona is a very small community, and it's not just putting that cloud of suspicion on him. It's we think that they falsely arrested him. We think they subjected him to an illegal detention, and that they violated his Fourth Amendment rights with these searches. So there's much more to it than that. But the start would be to just admit that they did wrong.
Will that prevent any future legal action if they were to admit that?
It would certainly make it harder. right? If they were to come out today and say, Carlos did nothing wrong, he's cleared, he wouldn't have damages going forward. Basically, every day they wait to do that, they're making it worse for him, and they are increasing their own liability and creating a bill that unfortunately taxpayers are going to have to pay to compensate them for what they've done.
Jesse Showalter, thank you for joining.